Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the NH Experience. And on today's show, I have a very special guest. See, she is the VP of Community Affairs and Engagement for the Los Angeles Rams. She's one of the longest tenure Ram female executives with about 16 plus seasons dealing with the Rams organization. She also started out with the Rams in 2002 as an intern. So it goes to show you hard work does pay off along with dedication. She has a great heart for the communities that she's been a part of in St. Louis and now in Los Angeles. She was also a recipient of the Bar Association of the Metropolitan St. Louis Spirit of Justice Award back in 2015, and I'm sure she continues to rack up great awards as she continues her tenure. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the one and only Molly Higgins. Hey, Molly, how are you?
Hey, Nick. What an intro, man. I appreciated that like 15, 16 plus because it might be plus a little bit. Time
I,
flies when you're having fun and impacting the community. So,
and I think that's super important when you enjoy and love what you do. I think you put even more of yourself into whatever it is that you are executing on a daily basis.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like work when you find something that you love. Like I found something that I love and being able to be out in the community and leverage our very unique platform that we have at the Los Angeles Rams to impact that community. And I never work a day in my life.
So, talk to me a little bit about your journey. Where did this passion for humanity and the community come about? Where did it start? What was it like growing up for you? And at what point did you realize, okay, this is the direction I believe my life is going to go in?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I grew up playing sports. I grew up in Iowa, actually. Grew up on a farm, so with brothers and cousins who were boys. So I could hold my own on the basketball court, on the football field, definitely on the baseball diamond. Just played sports from sun up to sundown. And really, I think my love for and compassion for humanity came from my grandmother. And she was just someone who, like lived by the golden rule. And, she would visit people that were in nursing homes that didn't have anyone to visit them. And she would spend time with them. And she was just, she was kind of, I always say, like a Mother Teresa on a very local level. Everyone knew her as the lady with the biggest heart in town. So I think, like I just started loving people, just witnessing her and how, she never looked down on anyone. Everyone was equal in her eyes. And, to this day, I think about her often and hope that I'm making her proud.
Absolutely. Now, I did read somewhere that your dream job you thought at one point was going to be the PR person for the Denver Broncos. What happened with that? What changed your direction as far as PR versus community affairs? How did that go about?
Yeah, so right out of college, I took a job doing PR for a global computer software company. And during my time there, we hired a PR agency, and the president of that agency tried to hire me. And he pulled me aside. He said, "Hey, Molly, just really enjoyed getting to know you through this process. Would you come work for me? Would you consider coming to work for me?" I said, I'm really flattered, but I'm a very loyal individual. I couldn't do that to Jim. And Jim was my boss at the time. And he said, "Oh, come on. I mean, give me a break. You want to write like press releases on CAD CAM software the rest of your life? You're too talented." And I said, "Well, when you put it that way," he goes, "So, what's your dream job? Work with me here." I said, if I had to say my dream job, it'd be doing public relations for the Denver Broncos. I'm just a huge sports fan. And he goes, "Well, I don't know anybody at the Broncos, but I do have a former colleague who is now the head of community affairs and corporate communications for the St. Louis Rams. You should just call her up." So I did, and we met for coffee. And at that point, she said, "I want to hire you." And I said, "Wow, that was easy. This is great." And she said, "Unfortunately, I don't have any full-time job. So what I could offer you is a full-time internship." And I was like, wow, going from like pretty good pay out of college to an intern who was going to make $500 a month. And I said, let me give it some thought. And I thought about it over the weekend and said to myself, I'm young enough in my career that if this is a terrible decision, I can kind of course correct and get myself back on the right path. But at the same time, I want to bet on myself, and I just need a little crack in the door, and then I'm going to bet on myself, and I think I can work this into a full-time job. So I did, and I originally started in corporate communications. Corporate communications and community affairs were one in the same department. And quickly learned that, my passion was more community affairs and corporate communications. So I was doing both in St. Louis. And then when we made the move to Los Angeles, Kevin Dimoff and I sat down and talked, and I said, this community is so big and the needs are so many. Like, I really want to focus my energies on community affairs. And we're able to bring in a really talented person from the NFL, and Joanna Hunter, to do corporate communications. And she's much better at corporate communications than me. So we make a good team. She handles that. I do the community affairs, and it's been great.
When you were in St. Louis, for the time that you were there for a great deal of time, and then all of a sudden you get the news that the Rams are coming back home, as we say, back to Los Angeles. What was that transition like for you to go from St. Louis and build up those relationships and be able to really connect with the people in St. Louis, and now you have to go thousands of miles away to Los Angeles, to a larger market and a new set of people? How were you able to make the transition?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough at first. I think more than anything, it was saying goodbye to all those nonprofits and educational leaders and people that we had developed such strong relationships with in St. Louis. But to me, I was always a huge fan of Southern California. And so the opportunity to come to Los Angeles and really build something from the ground up and build something special and unique to this community was so invigorating to me. And I think, as an outsider coming from St. Louis to Los Angeles, I was a little like, I'm not sure if I'm all Beverly Hills and Hollywood. And so I came in with a little bit of maybe trepidation, but as soon as I got out in the community, and, I think the beauty of Los Angeles is not Beverly Hills or Hollywood. It's the neighborhoods, it's the people. It's the Watts, it's the Inglewoods, it's, Boyle Heights and Venice, and, it's all those unique little parts of LA that are so distinct and so uniquely Los Angeles. I couldn't love it anymore. I mean, I don't think I could possibly ever leave Los Angeles. It's just, it's part of my heart and soul now, for sure.
Yeah, I've always said, I mean, being born and raised here, I think I really have a tremendous amount of respect for people that come south of the 10 freeway or east or west of the 110, because I feel like this is really the heart of Los Angeles when you tap into the vibe of the communities, like you mentioned earlier. You talk about ingratiating yourself into the city, obviously coming from St. Louis, and you spoke with Kevin Dimoff. What was that like for you, as far as knowing that you're going to have a building a working relationship with Kevin Dimoff now in a brand new city, and making sure that your role continues to expand?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate to work with Kevin since 2009. So we've worked very closely together and have a very close relationship. And I think one of the great things about Kevin is he really allows his people to lead, and he puts them in position and he trusts them. So, I remember having the conversation with Kevin when we made the move to Los Angeles, and he said, "So Molly, what are our community priorities going to be in LA?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm gonna take a minute to figure it out." He's like, "What do you mean?" It's like we did a lot of the right things in St. Louis. We were named St. Louis's most philanthropic organization. It was a tremendous pride point for, I think, Kevin, certainly for me, and really for the entire organization. So I think the assumption was that we were just going to pack up those community priorities from St. Louis, bring them to LA, and say, this is what the Los Angeles Rams are about. But I was like, no, that's not the right way to go about it. I said to Kevin, I'm like, if you will allow me, I want to embark on a listening tour and spend time in the community, just listening and learning and really having those conversations with community leaders and education leaders and nonprofit leaders to best understand kind of the landscape of needs in LA. And then we'll go about establishing our community priorities, but we're going to let the needs of the community kind of drive our strategy. And, to his credit, he said, Wow, yeah, that sounds like the right way to go about it. And he's like, but I also know you're not all that patient of a person, so it might drive you crazy because it's a big, big community. And I said, yeah, it might, but I'm, fully committed to it, and I think it's the only way to go about it and the right way to go about it. And I would say it was a good solid 2 years of just being in the community like every single day. I spent more time in Inglewood and Watts and Boyle Heights and East Los Angeles than I did in Agora Hills, which is where our corporate headquarters are located. People are like, "Is Molly working?" I'm like, "Promise, I'm working. I'm probably working harder than most because I'm really trying to dig in to understand LA." So I think that process has been so rewarding, and it's certainly been such an educational journey and so eye-opening, and has really been enlightening in terms of what we need to do and the opportunities to assist.
So when you came to Los Angeles, obviously there's so many diverse communities. You have the Black community, the Latino community, Asian community, the LGBTQ, so many things that you have to try to address and make sure you include in. What were some of your strategies to make sure that nobody was excluded, but you still didn't overwhelm yourself by doing too much, as far as getting the responses from the community members?
Yeah, I mean, I think our approach as an organization is always one that prides ourselves on being diverse and inclusive. And what's interesting, like to kind of compare and contrast St. Louis to Los Angeles, is a lot of our focus in St. Louis was on diversity and inclusion. We started a program called the Diversity Awareness Partnership, largely because that was the need of the community. There was such a racial divide there. It was, we viewed football as a way to kind of bring the white community and the Black community together. And that was pretty much the community in St. Louis. There wasn't a lot of Latinos, et cetera. We come to Los Angeles and people like celebrate that diversity as they should. And so right away, I was like, doesn't necessarily need to be a focus of ours because it's happening already in the community. Let's celebrate that. Let's be intentional about seeking out a diverse, staff and building. Now we've built a very diverse staff, and now it's like, how do we challenge ourselves to take that next step and make sure we're being an inclusive staff? So that's certainly been a priority of ours, and I think we've done a really good job of like reaching out into the community and bringing community members in to be part of the Los Angeles Rams.
No, I think the Rams have done an outstanding job. I think just from as a media member, but then also just as a person that lives in the community, I've been able to go to a lot of your community events from the elementary school in Boyle Heights, watching what you've done in the Inglewood and LAUSD communities and Watts. I think it's been a phenomenal job. What do you feel like? At what point did you feel like you were connecting with the community once you arrived in LA? Were there some people that are going up to you and singing your praises? Did you see the effects of the work has been done in the community through children, or what was the turning point for you that said, okay, we're finally getting the plan in motion and how my vision I want to see what the Rams organization does in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I mean, I think back to the day that I flew out for our press conference at the Forum to announce that we were returning home. You probably remember that.
Oh yeah.
And I was standing, I got out of the Uber and I'm standing at the entrance to walk in, and I'm checking in, giving them my name, and just talking to some community members. I'm like, and I hear like some kids laughing and, carrying on in the background. And I'm kind of looking around and I'm just not familiar at that point with Inglewood. So I said, excuse me, ma'am, are you from Inglewood? And she said, I am. And I said, well, I'm with the Rams and I'm going to be part of your new community. Is there an elementary school around here? And she started laughing and she's like, yeah. And she points across the street to Kelso Elementary. So I go into the press conference, do that whole deal. And on my way out, I told the Uber to stop at Kelso Elementary. So I walk in, I introduced myself, asked to speak to the principal. Dr. Coffey was his name. Came out and I said, he's like, may I help you? And I said, yeah, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Molly Higgins with the Los Angeles Rams. We just held a press conference across the street. And heard the kids out on the playground, so wanted to swing in and just introduce myself and let you know that we'll be back. We plan to really like develop deep roots in this community. And he kind of he's like, wow, okay. And, I think he probably was somewhat skeptical. And about a month later, when we started really getting out here, I reached out to him again, and we hosted a district-wide Play 60 event at Coleman Field. And the mayor came out, and everyone started coming out, and they're like, wow, you're for real. Like what you said, like you're already doing, you're only a couple weeks in. So I think like that, just being authentic and being a woman of my word, has, I guess earned me some respect. And I think like in Watts, I spent a lot of time in Watts, and when people started calling me the Mayor of Watts, I was like, yeah, right. Like I got some street cred now. So,
Right.
yeah, I think when community members start recognizing you and thanking you and stuff, I think it's certainly a pride point for me, because it's not like I'm just coming in for those photo op opportunities. I'm at your local coffee shop. I'm having lunch at your sandwich shop, and I'm walking the street. So I think that's certainly probably the moment where I felt like, I'm starting to get there for sure.
You know what? I've heard about you. I almost thought it was a folklore, because I have never seen you, but I used to hear about you. I would hear about what the opportunities that you were presenting for the communities, the events that you all were planning to engage and ingratiate yourself into the various communities. But your team has been absolutely spectacular. And one person in particular I wanted to get your thoughts on was Jonathan Franklin. Is a young man who obviously played his high school ball at Dorsey High, the pride of LA, played at UCLA, did some NFL, played in the NFL for a particular moment in time, and then, was able to be a part of the community staff. What does it mean to have a guy like Jonathan Franklin on the team to enhance the vision for you as well as the Rams?
I mean, Jonathan Franklin, right before I jumped on here, I, was texting with him and talked to him this morning. One of my most favorite human beings that is walking the planet. Just an amazing, amazing person, and such a tremendous role model for young people, especially in South Los Angeles. And I think, to tell you a quick story about Jonathan and how we met, Kevin Dimoff, who I mentioned previously, our COO, he came to me back in 2016. He said, Mom, have you ever heard the name Jonathan Franklin? And I was like, running back, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, UCLA? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, didn't we bring him in for a visit when we were the St. Louis Rams? He's like, yeah, my mom will never let me forget it, because we ended up taking, who was it? A running back, I think from Vanderbilt maybe, instead of Jonathan. And Kevin said his mom wouldn't talk to him for weeks because she was so upset. She's a huge UCLA fan and was a huge fan of Jonathan Franklin. So anyway, Kevin said, he went, he was drafted by the Packers. He had an injury, had to retire. I think he's at Notre Dame now. You should maybe reach out to him, because I think you guys would really hit it off, and just see if he'd be interested in returning home. So I reached out to him, had a conversation. Literally, like on a Thursday night, I had the conversation. I said, I'd like to bring you out. Can you be in Los Angeles on Monday morning? And he was kind of like, yeah, I guess. So at that point, he was at Notre Dame. We flew him out to Los Angeles, took him down to training camp at UCI, sat down with him in the lunchroom as practice was going on, took him to practice. I told him to stand right there on the sidelines. I'm like, don't go anywhere. I found Kevin. I said, we need this guy. Like, we need Jonathan Franklin. I can't let him get on a plane without a job offer. And he's like, you love him? I'm like, or he said, you like him? I said, I love him. And what an amazing story. I mean, Jonathan,
yes,
first graduating from Dorsey, so a product of Los Angeles Unified School District, goes to UCLA, first generation college student, gets his degree, goes, it just, everything about him is so inspirational, and he's so willing to share that story and inspire young people. He's just a gift. I mean, he's a gift to the Rams. He's a gift to the community. I tell him all the time. He's always like, "Oh, you're making me blush. Stop it, Molly." But one of the greatest moments, one of my proudest achievements is this week. Actually, we were able to promote him to a director. So he is now a director
Wow.
of social justice and football development for the Los Angeles Rams. So I mean, I could talk about Jonathan literally all day. I light up when I talk about him because he's that special to me, and I always call him. I always say, like, I'm a proud mama bear when I talk about Jonathan. And he just got married, and it's just because it was COVID, we were watching on the computer screen, and tears rolling down my cheeks, and just a really proud mama bear when it comes to Jonathan Franklin.
Absolutely. He's a great guy. I've had opportunity to interview him and talk with him through his college days, and seeing him develop and flourish in his role. I mean, it's been absolutely astonishing. And so I couldn't be happier. And congratulations to Jonathan Franklin on the promotion. Well deserved, well earned, I'm sure. And that's a testament to you again, just with your leadership, and you have a great rapport with the players. I mean, no matter who the players may be, we all know players come and go with teams and contracts and things like that, but you've always had a really great rapport with players when they were in St. Louis or here in Los Angeles. We had Ty Gurley at one point in time with his camp, and making sure that was available to kids, and the great work that Jared Goff has done with the Inglewood Unified School District and LAUSD, giving backpacks to kids, doing that work. When you see those types of events and you deal with those players, do the players normally come to you? Do you approach them? How does that relationship work to be able to benefit the community?
Yeah, it kind of depends. Like we try to take a very strategic approach with our players. So we really want to sit down and talk to them about their areas of interest and their passion points, and then we look to align them with a charity or a school that makes sense. So with Todd, you mentioned, he had a passion for food banks. So we went to Todd and said, we're bringing the Taste of the Rams to Los Angeles. So why don't you become the chair of this event? You help recruit your teammates. We'll raise money to buy millions of meals for Angelenos in need. And he was like, sign me up. With Jared Goff, as you mentioned, after the George Floyd killing, he was one of the first players to reach out and text me and say, Molly, I want to be part of the solution. Let me know how I can help. And so we talked and said, it's more than just police brutality. Certainly that's a terrible social injustice, but we're talking about other issues like education inequities and lack of opportunity, and we go on and on. And as we talked, he really gravitated towards, let's find a way to address education inequities. And I think, if you were to ask Jared, he will say, he is someone who had the privilege of going to a great school, and that really set him up for his success and his future. And so he recognizes, not all kids have that opportunity. So let's really dig in and see where we can be of assistance. And, with Jared, I said, I think it would be great if we did a couple Zoom calls with the state administrator, so the acting superintendent and the chief academic officer, with Dr. Lucas, and really ask them how you can best help. Let's not assume we have all the answers. Let's not assume that backpacks are the way to go about it. Let's ask them. And so we did. Jared took the time to have those conversations via Zoom after practice with the school leadership, and we're starting to develop a more holistic plan. I mean, you mentioned the backpacks and the books, which is a great first step, but with Jared, I know he's committed to the long term for Inglewood Unified, and he's working on some additional plans right now. So excited to see what comes next, and just excited to see him continue to grow as a leader both on and off the field.
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of players that I've noticed, whoever they may be, have always wanted to be engaging and be a part. And I'm sure that makes your job a little easier, where you don't have to feel like players are forcing themselves to do community work. I think That's always been a great deal for Mr. Cronky on down. Their commitment to making this city a better place. I want to talk specifically because this is a friend of mine, a buddy of mine, Sticks from Watts. You were able to connect with him. Now he told me the story of how you guys connected. So I want to hear from your version of the story of how you guys got together and made this dream and this vision a reality.
Man, I didn't know you were friends with Sticks.
Oh yeah, that's my boy. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that makes you and I, like, you're my boy now.
Oh, hey, I'll accept that any day of the week.
And I think I've heard Sticks' story, and I'm like, bro, that's not the real story. So it was last year, and he reached out to me on Twitter, sent me a direct message, and he just said, hey, I've heard your name quite a bit in my community. Just wanted to say thanks for what you're doing, specifically with the Watts Rams youth football team. Let me know if there's ever, anything that we can collaborate on, sort of thing. So literally at that time, we were working with a creative agency, producing a short film on the Watts Rams. And this creative agency said, we really want to find a local rapper to kind of like narrate the film. And they had 2 rappers, one of which was Sticks. And they said, they'd both be great. And I looked at it, I said, whoa, Sticks, like this cat just reached out to me on Twitter. And they're like, you're kidding me. And I said, no, I'm happy to reach out to him and just kind of like share the vision and the opportunity, but I kind of want to meet with him first and make sure that like he's a legit dude. Mm-hmm. So I responded to his direct message on Twitter, and I said, thanks for reaching out. Here's my cell phone. I have like an immediate opportunity that has some potential, I think, but would love to sit down and talk with you. So he called me right away. He's like, yeah, I'm at my daughter's doctor's appointment right now, but I can meet with you later. I said, well, I'm on my way to Watts right now, and I'm actually going to the police station for a meeting. And he's like, you're going where? I said, the police station. So if you want to come on up and meet with me. I mean, it was the funniest thing. So he came up and we sat down. I remember like sitting in the conference room, and we just started talking about the community and the community needs and like what needs to be done and what is being done. And we just jived right away. And like probably an hour later, I said, oh yeah, I mean, so let me talk about, why we brought you up here. So we told him about the film, and we said we were looking for somebody to kind of narrate. And he said, yes, sign me up. I'm happy to do it. And, with Sticks, it was never okay, well, you talk to my people and like, we'll figure something out sort of thing. Like, it's going to cost us. It's never about money. He's like, I believe in what you're doing. I'm happy to support like anything for my community. I'm in, I'm all in. So we went to a studio in Inglewood. He watched the film. He said, okay, watch the film again. Okay, one more time, watch the film again. He said, okay, all right, just give me a couple minutes. So we all step out and come back in. He's writing the script. He records it. It's just like pure poetry. And I mean, it was wild, like his creative genius and how quick he did it and like how heartfelt it was and how authentic. I mean, it's like, everyone was just like mouth wide open going, I can't believe that happened and that quickly. So that was back in November of last year. And then we started just kind of like developing a relationship. He would come out to support. We would support some of his Think Watts initiatives. And then fast forward to probably back in August, Jacques McClendon, who's our director of player engagement and development, he reached out to me on a Saturday afternoon and said, hey, Malls, just want to let you know the player leadership team just got together to choose kind of their social justice phrase that they're going to wear on the back of their helmets for the home opener. I said, okay, great. And he goes, they chose It Takes All of Us. And I said, wow, okay. I mean, that's powerful. And I said, so tell me, what was their thinking? And he said, well, their thinking is that it's going to take all of us for change. Like, we're all going to have to come together. This isn't a Black
Absolutely.
issue. This isn't a brown issue. This is a humanity issue. And I said, Jacques, I got an idea. So I reached out to Sticks, and I'm like, Sticks, there so many people are putting out organizational statements, right, about social justice, and we did that, but we wanted to be more than just an organizational statement. So I reached out to him, and I told him about the players and them selecting It Takes All of Us. And I said, I'd love to work with you to like create a spoken word PSA. So you write the spoken word, and then we'll have our player leadership group voice it, and we'll tape it, and it'll run. We'll drop it right before Sunday Night Football when we open against the Cowboys. And he's like, dope, I'm on it, I'm in, So he put it together in a couple hours, sent it to me. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was like so heartfelt. We had talked about, making sure that it was grounded in the Rams community outreach effort. So it was authentic. And then I also told him, like, Six, I don't want you to sugarcoat this. Like, I want people to feel the pain, the anger, the frustration, the hurt that the Black community is feeling. And I want them also to feel like the hope and the promise if we all come together. So I want that kind of to be the story arc. And he's like, totally get it, understand, I'll get you something. He got me something. It was unbelievable. I go to our production team to share this with them and say, I want the players to do this. We'll recruit, we'll talk to the players, they'll all sign up. Just want you to produce this PSA. So Sam Darvis Duffy, who's one of our lead producers, said, hey, Miles, like, let's have Sticks like rap this. I said, I think it's like written as spoken word, but like, let's get him on the phone. So we call him, and I'm like, Sam, do you want to ask him? And he's like, yeah, man. So Sticks, like, I read this, it's powerful. Like, could you rap it? And he's like, well, like Mal said, this is like more written for spoken word, but like, if you want to rap, I can write a rap. I can write a song. So, and then we started kind of talking about the creative vision of that. Like, we would tape it at different places. We'd tape it in Inglewood, and we'd tape in Watts, and we'd tape, And so from there, like, again, his creative genius just took over. We got out of his way, and I just said, do your thing. Like, I trust you. I know your talent. So he put together that song that we released called It Takes All of Us. And it was unbelievable. I mean, the response that we got from that. And I think the beauty of it is, like, there are two things in this world that can really like break through all the clutter. I think it's sports and it's music. Yeah. And those two things really like bring people together and unite. And oftentimes people from very different worlds. So, I think that was the power of the Rams and Sticks coming together, and professional football and music. And I'm so proud of the piece. And it was just, couldn't ask for a better like co-pilot and creator in Sticks. Like, we've developed a really close relationship. So.
Yeah, he's a good dude, tremendously talented, but definitely has a heart for his community, heart for the city, and just a really down to earth guy, man. I'm very proud to call him a friend. And that's big of your organization as well, to really step out the way and said, okay, you guide this, you trust him enough to guide it and say the things that need to be said that represent him and the organization as well. So I thought that was really big. I don't think that gets enough props and credit, as far as, you and the organization being able to allow him to do that. Are there any plans to work with any other artists, or I know you guys had J-Rock from TDE to do a halftime or pregame show, I should say, for the Rams for the first game against the Cowboys at that time. But are there any other plans to work with any other artists from the community, like TDE or Sticks or anybody else like that?
Yeah, I mean, we actually have a person that handles our kind of influencer marketing. And so we worked with her. Her name's Masuma Ali, to bring in like D-Smoke to talk to our players about the importance of voting. So I think in Los Angeles, like that's another great benefit of being in LA. You have so much talent from so many different industries. So we're always looking at ways to kind of develop those relationships in authentic ways and partner on different things. So like in Issa Rae, for example, we've had some conversation with her about doing some things around voting.
Oh yeah.
There are always opportunities. So yeah, Nick, if you have connections, we'll certainly listen. But I want them all to be like Sticks, just down to earth, just amazing people.
We'll talk definitely when we get off of here. I'll tell you about a couple of people I think could be beneficial. Okay. You get so much praise. I mean, we hear people like Jared Goff, a lot of the other players saying how, wonderful it is to work with you, how, you're nonstop, you're a hard worker, you're dedicated to the craft. You talked about Kevin Demoff, working with him. But there's somebody else that I want to read you a quote of what they said about you that works within the organization. And this person said, and they were smiling when they said this, so let me keep that in perspective. But they said, quote, "I keep noticing what Molly and what the department did. Molly Higgins is one of the more impactful teammates I've ever had. Seeing her on a 24/7, 365 basis. Seeing her when it wasn't cool to do this. Really digging into what she's trying to do her part with the Rams to make an impact in communities. When you work beside her, she'll make you feel small quickly because of all the work she does, has done, and will continue to do. It's fueled by all that's going on. It's a passion and a drive to use football to enhance society," end quote. And that came from General Manager Les Snead. When you hear things like that, what does that mean to you?
Man, it means the world. Like wow. I mean, I have so much respect for Les just as a professional, but more importantly as a human being. And man, you're getting me teary-eyed. And he's been rolling with me for a minute, like back in St. Louis. I mean, I remember bringing him in, I think it was probably 2012, and sitting down and having a conversation about community outreach. And I knew right then, like I had a tremendous ally and teammate, and he's been incredible. He comes up with ideas on his own. Like he'll call and, right after George Floyd again, like he was one of those first calls, just, it was a 2-hour conversation about what can we do? What can we do more of? Like, let's have greater urgency, like let's continue to do everything that we have been doing, because social justice has really been at the heart of our community efforts. But, he was saying, like, me personally, what can I do? And we as a personnel department, what can we do? And then, the great thing about Les is like, he'll talk about things, but he moves quickly into action. And when he says he's going to do something, he's going to do something. So, with his minority fellowship program and what he's done in terms of investing in their future, and just he walks the walk, and or how's that go? He walks the walk, doesn't walk the walk, he talks, whatever, you know what I mean?
Oh no, I got you.
But he is he's a really just unique and special human being, and for him to say that, that means the world to me, for sure. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, absolutely. I had to ask him. I asked him a question about you, so I had to get his feedback, especially him being, high up in the organization as well. So it's always good to hear, I'm sure, to hear your fellow colleagues and co-workers. And you seem like not just workers, but you guys seem like really like a family, which I think is one of the unique things about this organization. You look from the PR staff, yourself, upper management. I think it's very, very unique. But for you, what made social injustice? We hear you talked about George Floyd. We know about Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and countless others that unfortunately continue to die at the hands of the police. I remember the Rams had released a statement early on talking about how they were dedicated to ending systemic and institutionalized racism and oppression, police brutality, and things of that nature. Why was it important for you specifically to make an impact and a focus on focusing on social injustice and racial inequality?
Yeah, I mean, I think professionally, it's always been a priority of mine. But back in St. Louis, we had Michael Brown's killing and the Ferguson situation, and I had a young man who came into my life at that time and ended up being my foster son, and he's African American, comes from where Michael Brown grew up, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, at that point, it became very personal to me. But now, you know, I see how we as a society failed him. And he's 21 now. And, you know, like, I now know what it feels like when, as an African American man, he's out, you know, just going to the grocery store and
Mm-hmm.
going to the movie. And I fear for his life. And he's a great kid. I mean, he's so awesome and he's so smart, but, you know, we as a society didn't do a good job with public education. And, you know, he had a dad who was incarcerated. He had a mom who fought poverty, and, you know, like he dealt with food insecurity. I mean, he was hungry. He was homeless at the time, before he came into our life. So it went from like a professional passion and priority to very personal to me very quickly. And that was back in 2015. So, you know, now to be with him from like age 15 to 21 and just to see him kind of grow up and like the opportunities that we were able to expose him to, you know, that he didn't have. I always say, like, to me, a priority is to go into the community and teach kids to dream beyond their current reality. And when I say that with Kevon in mind. I mean, I remember when my wife and I brought him into our home,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, "Why are you doing this? Why are two white girls like caring about me?"
Right.
And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And that was like how he was raised and how he grew up, which is kind of, he didn't think he was worthy of love. And I said to him, I remember saying, "Kevon, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And he said, "What you mean?" And I'm like, "Well, it's a pretty straightforward question. Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you want to be? Like, what do you want your occupation to be?" And he looked at me, he's like, "I don't know. Nobody's ever asked me that question. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe a Marine." I'm like, "Okay, you know, that's an honorable thing to do. Like, why?" And he didn't really have a good answer. And I said, "Well, what else?" And he said, "I don't know, maybe like a barber." And I said, "Okay, you know, like if that's what you want, that's what I want for you. That's what Missy wants for you. But we also want to expose you to different opportunities, because you're such a brilliant like kid. He's so charismatic. He walks in a room, he lights that room up. I mean, he's funny, he's witty. I mean, he's so smart. And had he had a proper education, skies would have been the limit for him. They still are. I mean, but you know, he has a tougher go than you know, my nephews,
Right.
who were white and had the privilege of a great education. And that infuriates me. I mean, it pisses me off. It makes me mad. And I think that has just intensified my passion for my job and for doing what's right and for fighting social injustice. And, you know, it's, like I said, I've been in this work since 2002. It's always been a passion of mine, but when it became personal with Kevon, and I saw it through the eyes of a parent and through the eyes of a child, I knew that like I needed to do more, and you know, the Rams needed to do more. So sorry for getting emotional there, but it's real. It's real for me.
Absolutely. I have the same, you know, I have a 7-year-old, and I've always said, you know, the hardest conversation I'm going to have is not the school conversation. It's not the birds and the bees conversation, because that all makes sense.
Mhm.
You explain it logically, it makes sense. I have to have that conversation with my son because my son is a black son. And one day he's going to grow up, he's going to be a teenager into a young man. And I have to have that conversation with him. And we are the only race of people that have to have that type of conversation in this country because of the things that we've experienced since I've been on this planet, basically, which is terrible in itself. Um, but I applaud you. Um, Kevon is his name. You guys are fortunate to have one another because I really believe you guys and your wife as well. You all have each other. I think that's really been an impactful, positive moment in his life. Uh, and who knows where he would be if you guys didn't meet up and get together and where he is now. So that says a lot about you and your character, um, and about him as well. So my hats off to you. Thank you for sharing that story. It was awesome, and I think a lot of people can relate to it as well. Switching gears a little bit, really quick. SoFi Stadium, the $5 to $6 billion playpen, as we like to call it. I call it the new sports heaven. I've been to Jerry's World. That's cool, but what Mr. Kroenke has done with SoFi Stadium has been absolutely astonishing. What were your thoughts when you finally saw the completion? I know you were there for the construction and the blueprints and things like that, but now to see it come to fruition and where it is right now, what were your thoughts on that?
Wow. I mean, switching gears completely, right?
Had to bring it up a little bit.
Yeah, no, let's make me smile. Walking through, I wouldn't say the doors because we don't have doors. It's true California living, with the indoor outdoor space. It takes your breath away. I mean, I think that initially your eye goes to the scoreboard and it's just like, wow, it fits. That's spectacular. But I think to me, like people have asked me this question, what's your favorite thing? I think it's like the landscaping and how we were able to bring Southern California into the stadium. And so like when you're walking, there are points in the stadium where you feel like you're in Malibu on a hike or something, you're looking around and you're surrounded by all this greenery. And I love the indoor outdoor living. I mean, I think if I could, I'd live my life outside in this beautiful, beautiful weather. So, I mean, that's spectacular to me. I mean, it's amazing to kind of see Mr. Kroenke's vision. Like I saw it, for years as a blueprint and then, and as renderings and to see it, it's so spectacular. And I'm just so excited to get fans in the building to be able to like experience it and witness it and be part of what will truly make it a Rams experience.
Absolutely. Now, have you gotten used to the traffic here in LA? I know you've been here for a while, but it does take a little bit of time for some.
It's tough, man. I'm not going to lie. When I first moved back in 2016, I was like very aggressive in my scheduling. I would start my day, let's say in Inglewood, and then I would have a meeting in Boyle Heights, and then I would like go back to Watts and then to Agora Hills. And it's like, what? People are like, you're crazy. And I'm like, I just didn't realize it's not that many miles. It's just a long time. So that took me a little bit to get used to, but I think then you figure out kind of the traffic patterns. And I always say there's a reason that LA traffic's so bad and the cost of living so high. Everyone wants to live here. So, it's one of those things you deal with just to be part of Los Angeles and Southern California.
Well, being that you're so in your car a lot, what are you listening to keep you sane and keep you calm from leaning on the horn so much?
I do a lot of phone calls in the car. So I put those AirPods in and return phone calls and check in on family members and just check in with people. I do listen to some music, listen to a lot of news, try to catch up on the news, listen to some ESPN, trying to get into podcasts. Like when I listen to them, I love them, but I just never take the time to like really kind of seek them out. So I need to do a better job of that for sure. I like expanding my mind. So I like things that challenge me intellectually.
Any particular podcast you checked out that you've grown accustomed to?
And none that like I would say are go-tos.
Okay.
So if you have any recommendations, let me
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh yeah, Molly, I got you. Don't worry, I got you. Well, you know what? I know you're a busy person. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join me here on the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all of the great and hard work that you and your team does on a daily basis. You may not get all the recognition or the thank yous that you deserve, but I'm here to say thank you, just as a member of the community, not just a media member. Because again, with the backpack situation, my son was a recipient because he went to his school. So I just want to say thank you for coordinating that, and thank you for all of the work that you've done and continue to do. And if there's anything, and I do mean this when I say this, if there's anything that I can do or the network can do, please let us know, and we're there. No, no questions asked.
Well, thanks, Nick. It's been a pleasure. I can't believe we haven't crossed paths yet, but I look
I
forward to
know.
seeing you at an event soon or in the community. But the thanks really goes to Mr. Cronky. You mentioned it. Like he really enables us to do our jobs. He gives us the resources and the autonomy, and really kind of trusts us to do what he hired us to do. And Kevin Dimoff and Les Snead and Coach McVeigh. And I feel like I have the best department and team in the NFL and probably professional sports. And we have an amazing organization. Like all of our staff members are committed to the community and committed to the fight for social justice. So I'm proud to be a small part of it, but you know, it's my passion, it's my purpose in life. So I appreciate the time. It's fun talking.
Hey, it's great talking to you as well. Hopefully, we can get a Super Bowl out this year. I'm hoping. We were close in 2018, so I'm hoping this may be the year to get it done.
Yeah, well, if we just need to keep stacking those wins, right? And heading up to San Fran this weekend, and going to do it on prime time, hopefully. So really excited about the product that we put on the field too, and more excited about the character of the guys in the locker room and how they're getting involved in the community and raising their hand and saying, you know, how can I help? So it's been awesome. Looking forward to finishing 2020 strong and heading into 2021 on a good note as well.
Please let everybody know where they can continue to keep up with you and follow you on social media and what's going on in the community events.
Awesome. Check me out at Kale Malls on Twitter. That's where I live. I need to get on the Instagram game, but Twitter is my jam.
Okay, well, I follow you on Twitter, so just after so if you.
I need to make sure I'm following you. I'm sure I am, but
If not, I would appreciate the follow. But again, I love what you're doing, so that's why I followed you. So thank you so much, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
all right. Take care. Thank you.